got the piece of wood mounted and ready to start turning. Before we start turning, some beginners find it difficult to, a lot of beginners, I remember, find it difficult to put into 3 dimensions, to work with hand and eye coordination and to turn into 3 dimensions what they can see in 2 dimensions. Very few people, I don't know anybody else who teaches this way, but I think it's a really easy way of at least establishing a curve which you can then refine. That's one of the hardest things to do in wood turning, to get an aesthetically pleasing curve without any flats on. Really difficult to do. This way, the way I'm about to show you, I think it makes it much more easy, especially for beginners. Eventually, your muscle memory will kick in and you won't need to do this technique. But to start off with, who cares? It's an easy way of doing it, and it gets you a half-decent bowl shape to start with. And there's no reason why not. I've never heard anybody say, well, why not get graph paper, draw the proportions, the length and the depth of the piece you're turning, do a cross section, and then draw whatever you can draw within that shape, provided you've got the tools and equipment to do it. You can turn it. You could be going through a little hole in an inch thick, and it may be if you can turn it, if you can draw it within those parameters, you can turn it. So there's nothing stopping you drawing that on graph paper, drawing a curve, cutting a template out, and working to that. Or do what I'm about to show you here. Do what I've done. So for a basic bowl curve, let's look at number 1. There's your basic block we're starting with. So again, whatever you could draw within that shape, it doesn't matter what the curve is, you can turn it, provided you can hold it, and again you've got the equipment. Number 2, now let's look at this. All we've done, this is the first cut. So from there to there, we've halved it. From there to there, we've halved it. Put a point there, draw a line, and just turn it flat. Okay? Don't try and turn a curve, just try and turn it flat. Now, if we come down to number 3, this would be the next step. You split it down again. So, whatever you've got left on 2 there, which was this here, you split that down again. Whatever that measurement is, just bring up that cut there to that first cut. Bring it up to there and draw a line. Same with here. Half that, whatever that measurement was that you've got left, up here, measure it down to there, split in half, whatever that measurement is, bring down here, make a line there. You can see where I've coloured in with the yellow highlighter. That will be the next step on number 4. So basically, I've just split them down again, and I'm always halving whatever's left after the last cuts, and then transfer it onto the last cut. Okay, the Calabash bowl. Beautiful shape, one of the most favourite shapes. It feels good, it looks good, but it's a very difficult curve to do. You've got to get the curve just right. What I did with this one, I knew that I wanted it turned over slightly, so with this one, I just started playing about with cuts and measurements. I actually started there, 1/3 and 2/3, 1/3 and 2/3 and 1/3 down there, cut a line, then I split it down, and I turned it over a little bit there. If we come to 2, all the cuts, by the way, whether it's a push cut or a draw cut, are in that direction. The grain on the outside of a bowl is always running from the middle to the outside, always. There, we're cutting downhill that way. If you came uphill, you'd be cutting against the grain. So you're going all the way around there, downhill, downhill, downhill. Okay? So again, all the grain direction is in that direction. Look, there's your Calabash bowl. It breaks on 1/3. Okay? So you've got 1/3 there and 2/3 here. That's the kind of shape that I like. And the other really important thing is that curve there has to flow through the corner of that, however you're holding it. I like to hold them on a tenon. I've got more wood to take away here. When I've got more wood to take away. If you do a recess, you've got to be a lot more accurate. So this way, it's easier to take the wood off. I'll show you how I do that eventually. So basically, that curve has to flow through the foot. The foot becomes part of the curve. If you get it just right, the piece will be footless and it will still sit absolutely nicely. So again, I'm going to make a Calabash bowl. I'm going to take you through it. try that way. You can't go wrong. What it does is it gives you some kind of curve which it can then refine. Okay, you have to refine it, but it gives you something to look at. And again, if you needed to, cut a template, get a compass, draw a curve with a compass, break it down and make templates. Nothing stopped. Who said you couldn't do that? I've never heard anybody say heard anybody say you do it this way. But why not? It's the end result that matters. How you get there, providing not doing anything unsafe to yourself or anybody else, really doesn't matter. Take your time and it's the end result. And you know what? I've noticed this. If you made something really nice, sanded it, finished it, give it to somebody, they'd be over the moon. But you know what? It's only other wood turners who bitch about how we do this. Ooh, he had to use a 60 grit to start sanding. Who cares? Who cares? So look, this I think is an easier way. Give it a try. What have you got to lose? Okay? So, back to the bowl. I'm going to sharpen a couple of tools and we'll get cracking. Okay? See you in a minute. Okay, so the first cut we're going to do is a push cut. My favourite size gouge is the 3/8 bow gouge. In the UK, or Europe, we measure the flute, okay? So that flute is 3/8. It could be on an orange bar. It will still only take a 3/8 maximum cut. So that's why we would measure the flute. Over here, we'll measure the bar, okay? And so it's a 1/2 inch bow gouge US measurement. Basically, what we're looking for is that bevel there has to be parallel to the cut you're doing. That bevel does two things. It controls the cut and tells you in which direction you're cutting. What we don't want to do is basically just drag a point across there. You'll get lines in the work. What we need to do is I usually stand here, I'm out the way of the piece of wood. If a piece of bark comes off, anything happens, you know, it's not going to hit me, it's going to go straight past. So I'm going to close the flute, pick the cut up, open the flute to about 45 degrees, and I'm just going to lean through. I'm holding the tool there, and the back of the handle is into my body. It's located in 3 places. Whatever's happening in the back of the handle, okay, reflects in the tip of the tool. So if you're just holding it in 2 places, that's what can happen. If you get the tool into your body and then just use your body and lean forwards, you've got far more control doing that than having just holding it in 2 places, okay? So we're going to switch the lathe on, close the flute, pick the cut up, open it to about 45. If you would imagine a clock, if the flute's closed, it would be 3 o'clock. Fully open, 12 o'clock, about 45 degrees, would be 1:30. So that's what you're looking at, okay? Flute about 1:30, then just lean through. If you have the flute closed all the time, you're basically just scraping a flat surface with the bottom wing. If you do, start like that, and then as you're making the cut, as you get into it, say to about here, just open the flute slowly, and you'll feel the tool wanting to cut more efficiently, but just open it slowly, not a sudden movement, very slowly, and you'll feel what's happening. You'll feel the tool make the cut, okay? So, let's switch this on. Make sure everything's nice and tight. There and there. Slightly out of balance, a little bit of vibration there. So, as soon as we start cleaning it up, we should get a much better cut. Stop there. It was starting to get there was more resistance. It was too big a cut. This wood's slightly out of round, it's not totally round, so I can see down here there would be at least 1/2 inch of cut. So I'm going to back off and just step this down. If you feel you're getting out of control, just stop the cut. You don't have to continue and then take a smaller cut. You've always got more control with a smaller cut. Time you'll learn how to feel, hold the tool in exactly the right position to take slightly bigger cuts. But until then, it's about muscle memory. It's not how many pieces you've turned, it's how many cuts you've made. So just take your time. You're in no hurry. right out. I'm going to move the tool rest in a fraction and then pick that cut up again, and I can see it's still not quite true, and clean up this face here. Again, that bevel has to be parallel to the cut you're making. Have a look, make sure it is. Make sure you're not just cutting with the tip of the tool. What you should be looking for is that bevel floating behind the cut, just like the sole of a plane. Now with that cut, I can hear and feel that it's cutting true, that it's now round, okay? And the reason for that, it's not an intermittent cut. If it's not true, you'll hear the cut. When it's running true, you'll hear one continuous cut. Let's just pick this cut up again, get the bevel parallel to the cut you're making, just rest it on that surface. That gives you the control. You'll notice the speed I'm cutting at. I'm just taking my time, and the reason for that is because the wood's not running very fast. If it was run faster, I'd be able to take a more efficient, faster cut. Okay, it's speed and feed. Wow. Okay, there's going to be some gorgeous game there. It's not quite round here. Still a couple of saw cut marks. So I'm going to go back, make a couple of cuts, true it up, then I'm going to come back to the face. We're going to face it off, and then I'm going to see what we've got. I'm going to spray it with water, and again, now I'm just looking here, there's some worm. Yeah, there's some worm on this side. I want to get past that. I don't want any wormholes in the piece whatsoever. So I don't mind changing, and plus, look, it's still not quite round yet, so when I get that round, those wormholes may disappear. I'm doing a Calabash bowl anyway. There's very few worms there, so it could work out just nicely this. I don't care if I've got to make the piece smaller. It's not that I'm adverse to wormholes, I just don't want them in this piece. Again, I'll make aesthetic decisions. So, I'm going to clean this up, and we'll come back in a minute and we'll clean the face up.